Hey, welcome back to the channel. Maverick here, bringing to you episode 10 of Dr. Stone. So, last episode, quite a lot happened, right? More specifically, Senku managed to get electricity now, right? So he's got steel working, iron working, and electricity crossed off the list. He can continue on his roadmap into eventually getting some antibiotics. So we are all set to do some science. Perhaps even more important than that, one of my favorite characters, Gin, has finally been introduced. And trust me guys, you will learn to love him. He is probably my favorite character right after Senku. He's just, he's a con man through and through. I would even say that he's slightly evil, in a sense. But, yeah, you guys will see. He's definitely a great character and one who is very smart, which is nice considering that this world has a lot of, I guess, more simple-minded people, right? You gotta have someone who can bounce ideas and sort of be like the partners in crime with Senku. So that is what Gin's character is. Although that might be spoiling a little bit since he's still neutral for now. But anyways, let's just get into the episode right now. Alrighty, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Ooh, spooky. Oh, yeah. We gotta get the background story to Senku first. Wow. Anyways, I seem to, if I remember correctly, in the manga, it was that he thought that the strong force and the weak force were basically a little bit too much of a concept, right? He couldn't quite grasp the concept. He thought it was a little bit too abstract at that point. And so he stuck to things he knew, such as electricity, and started his research from there. Denki. Although to be fair, out of the four forces, the only one which you can tangibly grasp and actually try to create would be electricity, right? I mean, so far we haven't been able to make gravity or, the subatomic strong and weak forces. I mean, well, it's definitely not something that he would be able to do in the Stone World anyways. Even making electricity itself is mind-blowing. But anyways, let me skip this real quick. A Filmsy Alliance. Well... Yep. He's pragmatic. A realist. Well, that's because you've never seen light before. Don't we all, though? Ah, his backstory. Well, not quite backstory, per se, but... Strongest prime. But he's gathering his forces as well. Of course, all muscular, powerful guys. See, he revived him purely to chase down Senku. Ah, here we go. It's actually quite obvious who he is. What? I mean, I'm sorry if my reaction isn't, like bigger, but I warned you guys. This isn't exactly blind for me. Read the manga. I love the manga. You're up, Suika. Detective Suika on the scene. Magma. Basically, they think the source of all Kohaku's power is sorcery. Yeah, she could completely wipe the floor with magma. uh. The tournament. Then again, it's like yeah, it's really just a quick explanation. And of course, her dad is pissed. So, enter the tournament. I don't think he's quite talking about her face. Yeah, he wants to marry Ruri, but at least in this current kind of world, it's the people with strength who has the power. A power of childhood friendship and love. Yeah, you gotta love Chrome. Because he can't report back to Tsukasa. I like how they're making this to be a super big mystery. But I think we'll find out by the end of this episode. Well, as we clearly see in the last scene, they had reached an agreement. Look at his fro. I don't quite remember this scene.
初から協力すらしねえだろ。俺が電気作った時点でもう弦のやつは決めてたんだ。どっちにつくか。ただ軽薄男にも軽薄男なりの格好のつけ方っつうのがあんだよ。
面倒だな、まったく男は。いつの時代も。
ああ、これ飲み物も欲しくなっちゃうね。コーラとか。コーラストーンワールドで作れる千空ちゃん。コーラを一本。ああ、作れる。俺ならな。
When it comes down to it, it's actually not that hard. But of course, only Senku has the intelligence.
司帝国 vs 科学王国初戦。朝霧源ゲット戦争は科学王国の勝利だな。源はやっぱりいい人だったんだよ。さあ。
コーラ一本で結んだ世界一薄っぺらの同盟だ。ああ、割に合わないね。コーラ一本じゃ。
He's got his pride as well, though.
冷えててくれないとね。
Ah.
しゃあね。源が戻ってくるまでにアホほどキンキンのやつ科学駆使して用意しといてやっか。
Senku Cola. Alright, there we go. That is how Gin joins Senku. I'll see you guys in a second. Alrighty, so that was episode 10, and not really much science happened this episode, so I guess we can talk a little bit more in regards to the sequence of events and to the characters specifically. Now, first of all, when I'm talking about the sequence of events, I'm saying how the anime sort of breaks away from the chronology of the original manga. They switched a little bit of the timings and whatnot. Like in the original manga, the whole explanation between magma and whatnot, and Suika finding out that it was actually magma, as well as, you know, stuff regards to the tournament, didn't really happen until after Gin had already gone back, and he went back actually fairly fast. I believe he went back the very same night that he got injured. So a little bit of discrepancy there, and they also added a few scenes like Kohaku sort of freaking out and chasing after Gin. That also wasn't really in the manga, so that's why I got kind of confused as to why this scene was in there. But I guess that adds another Senku and Kohaku scene, so I'm not entirely mad, right? So all in all, they did change some things, but I don't think they changed it significantly that it would sort of interfere with the story, is what I'm trying to say. So I guess they wanted to end the episode on sort of a, you know, on the note of, you know, the promise of a cola, right? So that is why they chose to switch things around in this kind of fashion. Now, let's talk a little bit about Gin, right? Because as I mentioned, he's probably my second favorite character right after Senku in terms of this series, in terms of the manga. And first of all, so who is he exactly, right? He's a mentalist magician, right? Now, for those of you who maybe don't really watch magic shows or whatnot, mentalist or mentalism is a specific branch of magic where basically the magician tries to predict or guide you to doing a certain thing, or you know, such as, I know exactly what you're thinking, you know, that kind of mind trick, if you will. And so it's that kind of magic, like letting you believe that you really had a choice, but actually it was all because the mentalist was in your head the whole time, and so he forced a certain choice onto you. That is what mentalism is, right? Now, it is kind of a controversial subject. That's mainly due to the fact that there are a lot of hacks practicing it, if you could say so. People who, you know, really try to make people believe that they have magic or whatnot, and they can predict the future. They can predict what you're actually thinking, that kind of thing. But in actuality, for those who are really skilled at it, it can, you know, and to those who are not trying to use it for some kind of nefarious, you know, for some nefarious use, it's actually quite powerful, right? You guys have to understand, Tsukasa, right? When he was busy collecting, you know, his followers and choosing which people to revive, Gin was one of the first that he chose, right? You guys all saw, you know, how all the statues he had in his background when Tsukasa was talking of Gin. You know, all of them look like, you know, beef, muscular people, and women were all beautiful and whatnot, and of course they all have their talents as well, but you know, Gin being sort of like, you know, he's definitely not a fighter type, right? So why was he one of the very first to be chosen by Tsukasa? That in itself should tell you how much Tsukasa respects Gin's abilities, right? And Tsukasa, don't forget, is definitely no slouch, right? He's definitely not an idiot. So yeah, and really, if you guys look at his, you know, his apparel and whatnot, it should be fairly obvious that he's more of a sort of advisory kind of role, right? And really, the reason why he gets along so well with Senku, I feel like, is because they're actually both, you know, they're both practitioners of science, except one practices what we call hard science or applied science, natural science. That would be Senku, whereas Gin practices what we call the social sciences. Some call it the soft sciences, right? And I'm talking about sociology, I'm talking about psychology, I'm talking about economics, right? He's the expert on that kind of stuff, which will eventually be very useful if and when, you know, their forces and whatnot gets to be bigger and bigger, and then he's going to have to apply understanding of human behavior to guide the kingdom of science along the way, right? And of course, right now there's only a few people, so his abilities seem to be, you know, sort of like, you know, very magician-y, if you will, right? It seems to be not all that useful for right now, but anyways, you guys will see. He's definitely one of my favorite characters overall. And also, the funny thing about the, I guess the ending, right? The entire cola thing, right? So again, definitely don't base this and think that, okay, they really did share an alliance over a bottle of cola, right? So especially what Senku was trying to say there is basically Gin has his own pride and he has his own philosophy of doing things. He doesn't believe in you know, just doing good for the sake of doing good. He wants it to be a transaction. He wants it to be a one-on-one, one-to-one even kind of trade in order for him, you know, both for his pride and also to convince himself based on his own beliefs and whatnot, based on his own philosophies, that this is the right thing to do, right? So even if he originally wanted to join Senku already, he wanted to make it sort of like a transaction, right? A promise between two different people, so that he feels that they are actually being bonded by something, even if this something is really kind of ridiculous when you think about it, right? So yeah, that is the entire thing in a nutshell, and yeah. Definitely, we will be seeing much more of him in the future. And beyond that, what else, right? We talk about Kohaku and Chrome, a little bit about their backstory as well, how they got into this mess in the first place, and we'll probably be going to see a lot more of this. Well, we will be. I highly doubt that the anime would forgo adapting this part a little bit more in regards of, you know, how their character came to be, what their personality is like, a bit more of how they were growing up, right? And what their beliefs and philosophies are. So do stay tuned for that as well. I feel like, you know, Kohaku, she's always been the best girl for me, right? And Chrome is also definitely a very handy sidekick to Senku. Or maybe I shouldn't say sidekick, maybe apprentice, if you will. Apprentice to Senku, who, well, you know, you guys will get to see him actually growing up and being a independent scientist on his own. And that is one of the, I feel like, one of the best things about Chrome the character. So do stay tuned for that as well. Now, on a final note, right? So we got the electricity, we got the iron, we can start making the antibiotics, right? Well, now we're getting into the realm of chemistry, and to do chemistry, they're still missing one particular component here, which I presume will be addressed in the next episode, along with probably also introducing yet another character who's also badass in his own way. Like, seriously, all I can say is looks will probably be deceiving, right? Because you got, I'm saying this because you guys will probably be watching the next episode before I do. And, well, all I can say is the character that's supposed to show up next episode is also a badass. Really, all I can say is most all the characters in this show are badasses in some way or another, right? Even the villains, they have their own, unique thing, right? The thing about this kind of, how should I say it? The thing about this kind of, reduced population, if you will, is that both sides need to make sure that they're only recruiting the elite, right? And so that is how you get this kind of thing where nobody is really well, I guess I can't really say and nobody is mediocre, but they all have their specific strengths and whatnot in order to, utilize themselves to the fullest of abilities. And actually, this touches on one thing as well, which they did mention here, and that is Chrome, right? How Kohaku feels sad for him because Chrome, even though she feels that Chrome would be great for Ruri in a way, however, because Chrome actually is in love with Ruri and he has a kind heart and he really wants to do well for her. The sad thing is in this era, right? The power is still being determined by your actual strength, right? Your ability as a warrior, as a fighter, etc., etc. Now, what is going to happen with bringing science, bringing civilization here, is the kind of shift in paradigm into people like Chrome actually having more status, people like Senku having more status than just pure brutes, right? Once civilization comes around, it's those that can control, such as the flow of food, the flow of commerce, and those are the people that eventually get to be on top, right? So we are seeing in real time this sort of clash between ideologies of the new and the old, right? In the old, Kohaku's father, Magma, they still believe that strength is everything because that is what is needed, frankly, what is needed in that era, right? They need a strong warrior type person to lead the village, to unite the village, to lead the people, and to hunt, to gather, all that sort of good stuff, right? So we'll be seeing this gradual shift into everybody would have their own place in this sort of era, and in fact those who really use their brains and whatnot will become more and more important as time goes on. And remember this concept because it's actually going to be quite an important concept all the way throughout and probably to the end of the anime adaptation as well. So there we go, that's my thoughts for episode 10 of Dr. Stone. Looking forward to next episode and seeing the badass. No, I'm not gonna spoil. Anyways, look forward to the badass next episode as well. So, that was that. This has been Maverick. You've been watching Musings of Maverick. I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.